What's better than one fireball? How about 4 turn without action surge? Watch the video to find out how. Hey everyone, I'm Ronan and welcome back to the channel. Today we have another requested video. If you want to see more requested videos like today's Pyromancer endgame guide, definitely comment down below, like and subscribe if you're new. So Pyromancy. I know what you're thinking. Why Pyromancy? I'm a big fan of ice magic and the Frost Mage is probably one of my favorite builds to date. However, going the polar opposite, instead of using cold damage and using heat, fire damage, in Act 3 there are some exclusive gear pieces you can obtain that really enhances the Pyromancy playstyle, especially for Sorcerer. I hope you enjoy. Like I said before, like and subscribe if you're new. Let's go to get into it. Alright, so starting out with the Sorcerer, for sure we are going to be going Draconic Bloodline because at level 6 you will get additional damage for your fire spells. Hey guys, Future Ronin here. Although I do talk about the double staff mage build for this a little bit later on, I do want to say for maximum burst, use the double staff. You'll be able to do 4 fireballs in 1 turn. It is very, very strong. Starting out cantrip wise, you definitely want Firebolt. Surprisingly, this thing will hit really hard. At level 10, it upgrades to 3d10 for its maximum damage. And with some of the gear we're going to be utilizing, this is actually going to be a really strong spell that you can utilize without actually using any spell slots. The other cantrips are going to be up to you. I did take Shocking Grasp just to have something up close, and then the other 2 is just whatever you want. Spell wise, I did not take Burning Hands, and we'll talk about why. I went with Shield. Having the reaction to increase your AC significantly is really strong. And then Magic Missiles. I mentioned this in several other videos before, but force damage is one of the least amount of spells that is going to be kind of like resisted. So having this is a really great spell to have. Looking at your other spells here, some other things we could talk about real quick. Enhanced Sleep, because your strength is so low, could be useful to get around outside of combat. Not necessarily needed. Chromatic Orb is okay, but this thing falls off really hard later on and isn't really worth it past Acts 1 and 2 in my opinion. So the Bloodline, obviously Draconic Bloodline, you get basically built-in mage armor. It puts your AC to 13 if you aren't wearing armor, which is really nice, so you get extra AC. Your Ancestor, go with red here. This will give you Burning Hands for free. You could try using the other 2 fire ones, but this gives you sleep, and this sleep spell isn't that great in my opinion. And then the other one gives you Disguise Self, which isn't needed. You can already get free Disguise Self in-game anyway. So go with fire red. And then of course you can customize your character to look however you want. And then your ability score. So this is when things get fun. I will not be utilizing the Hag's Hair for this build, mainly because you don't need it and you can use that for someone else if you want. However, if you do want to utilize the Hag's Hair, you'll end up getting a free feat later on. I went with Constitution 16, Charisma 17. Like this. If you'd prefer to have a little bit more dex, you are certainly welcome to do so. If you end up utilizing the Gloves of Dexterity, which I would recommend highly if you want really increased AC, you would end up dropping Dexterity and putting points into into Wisdom instead. And your skill proficiencies here, you definitely want Persuasion. You have a lot of Charisma, so you want at least one thing to allow you to interact with NPCs a little bit better. And you could go Arcana, which I did just not to have a negative score, or you could put that in Deception, whatever you really want. Alright, so level 2, you get some more spells. Feel free to pick whatever spell you want down here. I personally am going to be going with Enhanced Sleep. Class passives, so this is what makes Sorcerer better than the Wizard. You have Meta Magic. So what this is basically you have sorcery points, which is a resource you can get back every long rest, and you can utilize those points to instead enhance your spells. So starting out, you have Careful Spell, Distant Spell, Extended Spell, and Twin Spell. You definitely want Twin Spell without a doubt, and I like taking Distant Spell. Distant Spell isn't used all that much, however, it can be very useful, especially if someone's slightly out of range to really get that extra range you need to kill somebody. Alright, so level 3, now you unlock level 2 spell slots here. This is when you have quite a few different things to choose from. Darkness, very powerful. Cloud of Daggers, a fantastic spell, does a lot of damage. You have your Misty Step, another really great spell. And then you also have Scorching Ray, another fire spell that is useful to use. So go ahead and pick what you want. To keep the theme of the build, I am going to be going Scorching Ray, but I would recommend getting Misty Step for sure, or Cloud of Daggers. And then you also get to choose some more. Go with Quicken Spell. It costs 3 sorcery points, which is quite a lot. However, this will literally make you be able to cast a spell as a bonus action. Really, really strong, and this will interact with gear that we'll talk about in a little bit. Okay, at level 4, you get another cantrip. Again, pick whatever you want. Doesn't really matter at this point. Spell-wise, you go ahead and get another spell. I'm going with Misty Step personally now. And you get your first feat. Can you guess what we're going with? If you have the Hag's Hair, this is when you would utilize it and get your charisma right here to max. Instead, we're going to go Actor. This will increase your charisma by +1. It will give your proficiency bonus double for performance and deception, making you even better when it comes to interacting with NPCs. If you don't want Actor, you could come down and easily get something else. I think Actor is the best choice though. Alright, level 5. This is when you get some really cool stuff. So we have quite a lot to choose from. Haste is very useful. Fireball. Come on guys. Pyromancer. Get your Fireball. This spell is really strong. Alright, level 6 Sorcerer. This is why Sorcerers are so cool. If you come down, you can see here your subclass feature. You have Elemental Affinity Resistance. So basically, I can become resistant to fire spells if I want. That doesn't matter. What you really want is affinity damage. So I will increase the damage of all my fire spells based off of my charisma modifier. So once you get your charisma to 20, it will be +5 damage on all my fire spells, which is really strong. If you take a look at your spell list here, go ahead and pick whatever spells you want. I would recommend Counterspell at this point. Counterspell is a huge utility, or Cloud of Daggers, whichever one you think is going to be more useful to your party. Counterspell for sure in X 2 and 3. Cloud and Daggers definitely helps out a little bit before that. Alright, level 7, go ahead and get another spell. You now have higher ranked spells. You can see none of them are really spells that you would really want for a Pyromancer per se, other than Wall of Fire. This one is pretty dang strong, so you can either choose to have this or to get your counterspell now. Alright, level 8, you get your second feat. So spell wise here, you can see there's no new spells, so go ahead and pick what you did not pick before. I'm going with Counterspell now. Your feat, so you definitely want to get your charisma to max level, and you will do that eventually. However, if you find you are fighting a lot of enemies resistant to fire damage, this is when you may want to take Elemental Adept. This is a really strong thing here, specifically for fire mages, because of how much resistance there is to fire in the game. It is one of the most resistant type of elements besides poison. So having this is going to be really nice, because if they are resistant to fire with this talent or trait, whatever you want to call it, feat, they will no longer be resistant to fire, so you will do neutral damage, and you can never roll a 1, which would be really useful for making sure you do as much damage as you can. So for me, I'm going Elemental Adept Fire here. Alright, at level 9, you get some more spells. You can go ahead and go through the spells and pick what you think is going to be useful. I'm going to go with Haste for now. Haste is really strong for a sorcerer because you can use meta magic and cast it on 2 people at once. Alright, level 10, you get another cantrip. Pick whatever you want. Spell wise, again, pick whatever spells you think are going to be useful for your party. Taking a look at all the spells down here, pick what you think is going to be most useful for you, your makeup and all that stuff. I do find Darkness can be really powerful, but it is a concentration spell. Bold Person can also be very powerful as well, especially if you are going to end up hitting this at a higher level spell slot to CC multiple enemies. There's quite a few different things you can do. Pick whatever you think is going to be useful. And then you get some more passives here. So we're going to go either Extended Spell, Heightened Spell, or Subtle Spell. I like Subtle Spell just in case I end up getting silenced. It's a great way to still be able to cast. Alright, Sorcerer level 11. Now this is when you have a choice. Do you want to multi-class with another class? If so, I would recommend going either 2 points into Warlock, that way you can get the increased damage for Eldritch Blast, or go 2 points into Wizard, Evocation Wizard specifically. This will allow you to learn some of the endgame scrolls and have them as a sorcerer. But Evocation Wizards, if they cast an Evocation spell, it will not affect your allies. So keep that in mind for big AoE spells like Fireball. will do damage to enemies but not your allies. Or you can stay a pure sorcerer, which is what I'm doing because I do want my 3rd feat. If you did utilize the Hag's Hair, I would recommend probably multi-classing. So at level 11, this is when you get some really strong spells here, and we are going for Disintegrate. This is a very, very powerful spell. And at level 12, you get your final feat. So go ahead and pick another spell here. I'm going to go with the Glaive because it's really strong offensively. Ability improvement to get my charisma to max. Do keep in mind, you can use 2 really strong powerful staffs at endgame if you did go defensive or dual wielder right here instead of going elemental adept. It's going to be up to you. One thing to note, because you do have access to magic missiles and things like that, if they are resistant to fire damage, you could use that instead and then use your other feat we talked about earlier for dual wielder. Alright guys, it is time to go over gear. I do want to state, if you do go the other way and don't go double staff and would prefer to go shield and staff, it's certainly still viable, but for maximum burst, you will want to use double staff. So the way this will work is with double staff, you will have 2 charges of Arcane Battery. Arcane Battery is insane. You use this and you can use any spell at any rank for free. Because you have 2 of them, combine that with some of your meta magic, you can really start to see how you can get some insane burst in one turn. The legendary staff here, of course, is the staff you want to get as soon as you can. When you get to Act 3, it has its own unique ability. You can attune to a different element once per long rest, or short rest I should say, and this will give you resistance to that element and additional benefits. For example, if you go with the fire one, Flame of Wrath, you add your proficiency bonus to the fire damage you do, so that would be +4, which will stack with your sorcerer bonus as well. So already you're going to have +9 damage to all fire spells, which is cool because right now our charisma modifier is at 5. You have Fireball and Wall of Fire you can use once for free without using Arcane Battery. They are not rank 6 versions though, but still pretty decent. You also gain heat, and we'll talk about the heat mechanic in combat. If you would prefer to use shields with your staff, some of the shields I would recommend would be the Ketheric Shield. +1 bonus to spell save DC is really good. You have the Sentinel Shield, +3 bonus to your initiative, advantage on perception checks. Really awesome shield you can get early in Act 2 at Moonrise Towers. And if you want to be a little bit more defensive, you could use this one here that you get in Rivington in Act 3 from the vendor. This will give you Force Conduit, making you a little bit more tanky to physical hits. Now your bow, use whatever you want, but I did use the Darkfire short bow because this will give you fire resistance regardless of how you play the game. It also gives you cold resistance, and it will give you haste you can use for free without a spell slot, which is really nice. Now for Act 3, for your chest piece, the Helldusk armor in my opinion is the best chest piece if you want to be really tanky, also gain additional benefits like fly, and be immune to fire damage essentially, or you can't be burned. Because you take 3 less damage from this, normally when you have the heat mechanic, you will take 1d4 fire damage on your turn. This will completely negate that, so you'll take no damage from the heat mechanic. This is really late game though, so instead, inside Act 2, when you do finish the quest for the Tieflings, you can get the Potent Robe, one of the best robes in the game. Your cantrips deal additional damage to your charisma modifier. Our charisma is at 20, so our cantrips will be +5. This will stack with the sorcerer bonus as well, giving you +10 to fire cantrips. But you also gain +1 AC and additional temporary hit points on your turn. You have the Necklace of Elemental Augmentation. Your elemental spells that are cantrips will do additional damage to your spellcasting modifier. So +5 here, +5 here, and then +5 for being a sorcerer. So our fire cantrip right here, the Firebolt, is going to automatically do +15 damage at all times unless they are resistant. But because we do have the legendary staff as well and we are attuned to fire, it will be 4 on top of that, giving you +19 damage for a cantrip alone. That is really strong, and it makes you saving spell slots really, really great. If you prefer not to use this necklace, use whatever necklace you would like instead. A really good one in my opinion is this one that you get in Act 1. Magic Missiles is a great spell because it's force damage. Force damage is one of the least resisted damage types in the game. Alright, so let's talk about capes. Cloak of the Weave, +1 spell save DC and attack rolls. If you don't want to use this, there are plenty of other options if you want to be more defensive. Cloak of Displacement is really good, and of course Cloak of Protection. When it comes to your helmet, there's actually a couple different helms I'm going to recommend. Let's start with things you can get early inside Act 2. Moonrise Towers Vendor, you can get this helm here, +1 bonus to spell save DC, and +1 bonus to initiative rolls. A pretty solid helm. The Ox, the Strange Ox inside Act 2, if you kill it in Act 2 or Act 3, it will give you this hat. Arcane Acuity is amazing. It is a stacking bonus up to +7, giving you +7 to attack rolls and spell save DC, which is really nice. And if you plan to use this on honor mode, trust me, you want as much spell save DC as you can get. Another really solid helm. Now, there are two other hats that you get inside Act 3 that are all very solid. You have the Birthright giving you +2 Charisma. This would put us here at 22, giving us a +6 modifier. So all those other items I talked about that would benefit from a higher charisma modifier, chest piece, necklace, and then of course just being the sorcerer, it would all be +18 now, like for fire cantrip damage, on top of the +4. So it adds a little bit of extra damage and it will help you hit spells and better charisma checks, obviously, when interacting with NPCs. Or if you want maximum burst, in my opinion, you could use this helm here, the Pyro Quickness hat. Whenever you do a leveled spell, so for example Fireball, you will gain a bonus action. Because we have meta magic to make our spells cost a bonus action, you can get up to 4 fireballs a turn, assuming you have haste on you. My recommendation for gear, if you go to utilize a lot of leveled spells, you would want to use the Pyro Quickness hat with the Hell Dust chest piece. If you plan to use a lot of cantrips occasionally, then I would say go Potent Robe instead, with this helm here, Birthright. Alright, so now let's take a look at gloves. There's quite a few different gloves. Thermo Arcanic gloves will give you 2 turns of heat. This will stack with the staff as well, so this is really powerful to get maximum heat pretty much every turn. So other really useful gloves, especially if you go the robe route, you do have the gloves of dexterity. Just setting your dexterity to 18 base is amazing. As you can see, when I equip this robe, my dexterity is 17 right now, and I can equip that and it goes up to 19, and then I could put my dex points into something else like wisdom, for example. Another useful pair of gloves, gloves of missile snaring. This is really useful, especially early on, to help just mitigate damage from bows, for example, on your character here. It's nice to have, not needed, but I did want to mention it. You also have the Hell Dust gloves, another really solid pair of gloves. You gain +1 bonus to your spell attack rolls and spell save DC. You don't have to worry about the weapon attacks or anything, but you do also gain Raise a Fire cantrip, which is nice because it's just a really powerful fire cantrip, and this will be affected by all the other modifiers. So your modifier, we talked about the chest piece, being a sorcerer, and this necklace will affect these gloves, and these are really strong, and I will showcase that in the video as well. Another useful pair of gloves are the Daredevil gloves. You get these early inside the Mountain Pass Githyanki Kresh. +1 bonus to spell attack rolls is nice, but you do have Daredevil proximity. This is really strong because when you are threatened, you have really huge disadvantages to your spell attack rolls and whatnot when you go to use a spell. This will allow you to toggle range spells as melee spells instead, which is really strong. Rings, Coruscation Ring is just a great way to debuff the enemy because all your fire spells create illumination of their own. Anytime you do a fire spell, this should proc. Radiant Orbs makes the enemies just have a negative stacking modifier to their attack rolls. You have the boots right here. These are probably one of the best boots in the game. Whenever you inflict a condition upon the enemy, you have 2 turns of reverberation. This is really strong because reverberation is a great debuff to give negative modifiers to strength, dex, and constitution saving throws on the enemy, but they can have a chance to fall prone, which gives all your melee attacks advantage, so it helps out your allies, and it just does additional thunder damage. So with this ring here and that one there, you're really going to stack up some CC. If you add this ring right here to it as well, you should add even more debuffs. Whenever a foe fails a saving throw, they gain mental fatigue, which is changed now. It gives a stacking modifier to wisdom, intelligence, and charisma saving throws. So the more they fail a spell, the more likely they'll be to fail again. But once you get to 5 stacks, they have a chance to take additional psychic damage, which is really strong because you can proc this a lot. Alright, let's go ahead and take a look at combat when it comes to people that want to utilize a lot of strong cantrips, getting the maximum cantrips you can do. So I'm going to go ahead and put haste to myself just to start combat. Let's put it in turn-based mode, and let's go ahead and get some heat actually on our character. So I'm going to start with Scorching Ray, and I'm going to upcast this just to really get some heat going. And Scorching Ray is a great spell because you can hit multiple targets at once or the same target multiple times. It's an easy way to get your heat up super quick. Alright, so you can see I actually took fire damage, and that's because the heat mechanic will attack you. You take 1d4 fire, but if you do have fire resistance, like from my bow for example, it's only 1d2. So now that I have 6 stacks of this, I can do additional +6 damage on my fire spells. Let's use heat convergence here. So now when I go to use this, it will automatically be additional damage. And because I have all the other stacking modifiers, and it is a cantrip, it's going to hit really, really hard. You see charisma, because that's my casting modifier. So let's use it on this person way down here in the back. We'll make one of them quick. Yeah, you can look how much all that damage was. Each one of those did over 40 damage. So if you take a look at the damage here, you can see 41 damage. Look at all the additional modifiers I have. +6 charisma. And that's from being a sorcerer. I have my proficiency bonus. All the other stacking modifiers to make my cantrip hit really, really hard. And I have 4 stacks of heat still, so let's use heat convergence again. This time I'm going to go ahead and use quicken spell, just to showcase the damage you can do with firebolt now too. So let's use it on her. And you can see firebolt still hit 34 damage, which is still pretty good for a free spell considering it's a cantrip. So that's how you would go about if you wanted to utilize a lot of cantrips. Of course, you can do other spells, obviously, because you have all these spell slots, but I did want to showcase that. Alright, so I did change my gear around a little bit. Now I am using the Pyro Quickness hat with Meta Magic for a Sorcerer. This is super broken. It's really strong. And I did put the Helldusk armor on so I can showcase the difference of this as well. So let's go ahead and open up on these guys, kind of like I did before. But this time, I'm going to open up a little differently. I'm going to go ahead and use my Arcane Battery. I'm going to get a free level 6 spell. Let's go ahead and use Fireball here. And I can hit all of them. Alright, now it's my turn. I only had 1 stack of heat, even though Fireball hit everyone in an AoE. Because it didn't hit multiple targets like targeting, I didn't get maximum stacks. But you can see I have 2 bonus actions now because it was a leveled spell. So what I can now do is use Quicken Spell right down here. So now my next spell is basically going to cost a bonus action instead. So if I wanted, I could use even more fireballs on these guys. Let's go ahead and do that. Might as well. And let's use the free version. You can see this is 8d6. Normally if you use Fireball at rank 6, it's a lot higher. So we will use base Fireball for free. And we'll hit, I don't want to kill these guys yet, so I'll hit 2 of them. Alright, so now I have 1 more action I can do. So let's go ahead and get some heat stacks on these guys here. A good way to do that, like I mentioned before, is to simply use Scorching Ray. We'll upcast it a little bit so I can hit these guys. And you can see the psychic damage from the ring I talked about. And now my turn's over, so I'm simply going to end it. I'm going to go ahead and use Counterspell. Counterspell is so useful to stop CC like that. Alright, now that it's my turn, I have 6 stacks of heat. You can see I have 2 actions again, just from my haste, but what if we want to get another bonus action kind of like before? And this is by having a lot of sorcery points is really useful. I'm going to go ahead and use Heat Convergence here. I'm going to go ahead and use Quicken Spell like I did before. Let's go ahead and hit another really powerful attack. It's only 60% though, so if I take a look at my character, all the little buffs I have, I need to do something to get in a better position here. So I'm instead going to Misty Step up top here. This is a way, because I Misty Stepped, I have a great way to still get my second bonus action. So you can use one for utility or one for damage. Now let's use my Heat Convergence and hit another Fireball. And we'll do a level 5 just to wipe her out. So now that she's gone, I get my other bonus action. So now I go with my Quicken Spell. We got this one guy left who has 58 HP. So taking a look at my spells, what if I want to use another free level 6 spell? So now I use my second Arcane Battery. I can go up to level 6. I could easily get Scorching Ray and just annihilate this guy. Let's go ahead and do that. This is going to absolutely do some insane damage. And I am ensnared, which is why I have the disadvantage, but with me being a little bit higher, it makes hitting my spells that much easier. And now there's only one guy left. This guy all the way up here. I have 7 stacks of heat. Let's use Heat Convergence. And can we hit him with this spell here? We can nail him right on his head. So how about we go with another really powerful spell and hit a Fireball right to the dome. Now they didn't finish him because Fireball is an AoE. If I would have used the Scorching Ray, he would have died. Thank you so much everyone for watching. Hopefully this video was a good one. I had a lot of fun making it. I have quite a few more builder quests I'm going to be going through. Look forward to my Bard Ranger and my dual wield tank coming up next. Comment down below what you want to see. See y'all next time.